Okay, it's live now. Hello, I am Chelsea Wanamaker, and my group members include Elise Hester, Lindsay Richards, Lisa Smith, and Aaron Walton, and we are the ABA All-Stars. The research study we chose to replicate was intended to investigate the effects of two interdependent group contingencies based on the number of pedometer recorded steps per day. The two groups were distinguished by an individual contingency and a cumulative group contingency. The study is titled Classroom-Based Interdependent Group Contingencies Increase Children's Physical Activity by Sarah Cole and colleagues. This study used a single subject design, and while the study was originally implemented with 30 third grade participants ranging from ages 8 to 9 years, we replicated the study with 5 graduate student participants ranging from 25 to 31 years of age in order to determine the effectiveness of the methods and procedures used during the time of the original study. The use of pedometers to record daily step counts is fairly common, and according to McNamara, Hudson, and Taylor of 2010, pedometers have been shown to be a reliable source of data. For instance, Curdy and Dallery of 2013 conducted a study with older adults through the use of a daily step counter, in this case, a Fitbit, and saw improvements in the number of daily steps taken. In addition, the study performed by Hardman, Horn, and Lowe of 2011 also found that pre-adolescents who were provided with a symbolic peer model during a behavior change program took significantly more steps per day than control groups. Considering this, if pedometers are a reliable source of data to measure physical activity, we must now take into consideration the contingencies that elicit the most activity in the form of steps. We put this into action by implementing the following methods and procedures that were laid out for us in Cole's original study. And now I will hand things over to Elise to introduce the procedures for the study.
Hello. Procedures for this study began with participants. Participants included the authors who were mentioned in the introduction. We are only 5 members of a graduate research class, and we are all over the age of 20. This is in comparison to the original study, which included participants who were 30 third grade students in 2 different classrooms. The setting of our study was each participant's daily work and living space, which ranged from participants' homes, gyms, grocery stores, shopping malls, and other various outings. This is compared to the original study, which took place in a classroom at school and the steps the students took at home. Materials used in this study were Apple Watches or Fitbits used to record daily step counts. Participants in this study also used picture recording devices to take pictures of steps each day. Stickers were also used to cover watches during baseline conditions. This is compared to the original study, which used single function pedometers from the Walk for Life Foundation. This study also utilized a graphic on Google Drive to display our cumulative steps as compared to the original study, in which teachers created a large piece of cardboard with a cartoon character on top, with a stick figure moving along the numerical values, displaying the cumulative steps of the class. Our definitions include a definition for physical movement. We define physical movement as the number of steps recorded on an approved pedometer device during a 24-hour period, beginning each weekday at 8 a.m. This was the same as the original study. Data was collected with a frequency measure by a step recording device. Ours were Apple Watches and Fitbits. The original study also used a frequency measure with a step recording device every 24 hours, beginning at 8 a.m. and ending the following day at 8 a.m. The only difference is in the original study, paraprofessionals would collect data from the students in the hallway before they entered their class. In our study, participants took pictures of their data and sent it to the other participants via text message. We collected all of our step data in a data table on the Google Drive. Now I'll hand it over to Lisa to cover design and intra-observer agreement.
Hi, everyone. So the design that we used was a reversal design. That was A, B, A, C, X, X. And this was the same design as used in the original study. So condition A was our first baseline condition. During baseline conditions, our pedometer devices were covered with a non-transparent sticker, so we could not see the number of steps that we were doing throughout the day. At the end of each day, each participant removed their sticker to take a picture and record the number of steps they took for that entire day. They sent the photo to a group text message between all the participants. Each pedometer device was then reset to 0, and the sticker was reapplied for the following day. So at the end of each 24-hour session, each participant was aware of how many steps they had taken throughout the day. The original study included a blind baseline condition, where the pedometer device was covered and a paraprofessional was the one who uncovered the sticker and recorded the number of steps. However, because each of the participants in our study live in different states, it was impossible to replicate a blind baseline condition. Condition B was the group condition. Participants wore their pedometer devices without a sticker during this condition, so we could view how many steps we were doing throughout the day. At the end of each day, each participant took a picture of their pedometer device and sent it to the group in the same form as the previous baseline condition. The total number of steps for each day were put onto a visual graphic design, which was accessible to each participant on a Google document that was created for the replication study. And this document, the visual, displayed progress toward the weekly goal. The group cumulative total goal was determined by taking the group daily average of the previous baseline condition, adding 1,500 steps, and multiplying it by 4 for 4 days of the condition. This is consistent with how the original study determined the group cumulative total goal. The group determined reinforcement to be in the form of the individual's favorite candy bar at the end of the condition if the goal was met. In the original study, the class received extra recess as their group reinforcement. The study then went back to condition A, which was baseline condition, and procedures were implemented just as they were in the first baseline. Next week, we went to condition C, which was the individual condition. Participants wore their pedometer device without a sticker again, so we could view the total steps throughout the day. During this condition, the goal was determined by taking the daily average step count from the previous baseline condition and then adding 1,500 steps. This method in determining individual goals is consistent with the original study. Each participant was given daily praise if their daily goal was met. A supportive and neutral statement was provided if participants did not meet their goal to encourage meeting their goal in the following session. An example of that would be keep trying or try again tomorrow. At the end of the week, if 80% of the group was successful in meeting their individual goals, the entire group received edible reinforcement in the form of their favorite candy bar. And this was consistent with the original study, except the method of reinforcement differed due to the participants' age group and setting. In the original study, again, the class received extra recess. Then we went on to 2 weeks of condition X, which was the best intervention. In the original study, the class, their best intervention was the individual condition. However, our replication study found the group condition to be the best condition. Therefore, our last 2 weeks of data collection included using the exact same procedures previously mentioned from the group condition, which was condition B. In the original study, a schedule thinning procedure was used after condition X. This schedule thinning procedure was implemented to gradually decrease the number of times throughout the week that the participants received individual praise. In our replication, because the best condition was the group condition, individual praise was not given, and therefore no schedule thinning procedure was used. For our inter-observer agreement, this was calculated in 100% of sessions. Participants took a picture of their total recorded step count and sent the picture via group text message to the other participants. The original study recorded IOA by having a paraprofessional record the students' number of steps, Wednesday through Friday throughout the study. The protocols used for IOA differed from the original study due to the participants' location, as we all live in different states. Treatment fidelity was maintained through regular communication via text messages, Google documentation, and emails. Participants used a non-transparent sticker to cover their step count during baseline conditions to achieve honest data. Pictures were taken of 50% or more of step totals to ensure accurate IOA data collection. And each member also was being supervised by a BCBA and signed contracts to ensure honest participation in any study. And now I'll pass it on to Erin to discuss our results.
Hello, everybody. So I'll be talking to you about our results from our replicated study today. As you can see, the baseline condition, our mean steps were 6,668, and that is the number of steps per person per day. Moving from there, we were able to get our goal for the intervention 1, which was the group intervention as mentioned before. And we were able to compare the mean of 7,476 steps to our goal. In this case, for the group condition, we did not meet our goal, and so none of the participants received reinforcement. Our daily step counts for each participant are shown in figures 1 through 5, which are graphs in the PowerPoint. And the mean step count per day is also shown, and that's in the graph in figure 6. During the first baseline, the mean daily step count was 6,668 steps per person per day. And we determined that the cumulative responding to be considered stable if 75% of the data fell within 25% range of the median, which was plus or minus 1,617. For this study, 5 out of 5 phases of data fell within the stability criterion, and that's shown in figure 7. For the individual responding, that was considered stable if 50% of data fell within the 25% range of the median, which was plus or minus 1,775. And for that condition, 4 out of 5 participants' baseline data fell within the stability criterion. And you can see all of that data represented in the graphs, figures 8 through 12. The cumulative step goal for intervention 1, which was again the group criteria, the group phase, was 163,352 total steps, which translates to 8,168 steps per person per day. And that was determined using the same formula as in the original study. Mean steps during intervention 1 increased from the baseline average of 6,668 steps to 7,476 steps per person per day. But again, that was not meeting the goal of the 8,168 steps per person per day. So the goal was not met, and none of the participants received reinforcement during the group intervention. During the second baseline, the mean step count was 7,595 steps. And we used those numbers, as you can see on the PowerPoint slide, to get our individual goals. During phase 2, which was of the intervention, which was the individual intervention, the mean step count decreased to 7,034, and only 1 out of 5 participants, or 20%, met their individual goal, which was not the 80% needed to receive reinforcement, so none of the participants received their reinforcement. Overall, the results indicate that the group goal condition resulted in the most steps taken across participants. Therefore, that, like we mentioned before, was the intervention that we replicated for the final 2 sessions. From there, I'm going to hand it off to Lindsay so that she can discuss our conclusions, successes, and limitations of the study.
Hi, everybody. In Cole's study, 2 interdependent group contingencies were compared in which participants earned reinforcement based on each individual's performance. Both the classroom cumulative total and individual goals increased step counts above baseline. In the replication of this study, we found similar results. After the initial baseline, both the group cumulative total and the individual goals showed an increase in step counts. However, in Cole's study, it was clearly determined that the individual condition resulted in a significant increase of steps in comparison to the group condition. This finding was not conclusive to our replication study. During our replication, it was determined that the group intervention phase increased steps more than the individual goal condition. We have considered a few confounding variables that could have altered the results to our replication study. One variable that seemed to affect the individual goals was an illness, as one of the participants was sick during the individual goal phase. This resulted in a lower step count for the participant, considering she was unable to engage in physical activity through steps, thus hindering her from meeting the individual goal. Another variable that could have affected the results occurred during the second baseline. One participant moved to a new home with increased steps more than what her average daily step count would typically be, thus skewing the data. A third variable that may have altered the data during the best intervention phase was that 2 participants' tracking devices died, which resulted in a loss of data for those days. One limitation to Cole's study was that there were time constraints imposed by an upcoming pilot physical education curriculum in which students' physical activity would be monitored. The pilot and study conflicted with each other, serving as a typical confounding effect, thus forcing the study to be terminated before the collection of any follow-up data. Although the scenario was not particularly the same for us, time constraints were an issue and in return affected the data. Due to academic timelines, the weeks that were chosen to perform the study may not have been an appropriate time for all participants. According to Cole, further research should address the influence that larger work requirement might have on responding. In addition, authors of the study recommend future researchers to consider the age range of participants in addition to the strength of reinforcement. That concludes our presentation, and we would now like to open it up for any questions.
You can stop recording now.